Hey everybody, my name's Mike. I'm one of the co-founders of Krampus of Indianapolis, and these are my cowhide pants. They're one of the first pieces I made for my Krampus suit when I moved from store-bought costume pieces to actual hair-on hide. This was back in 2017. The pants have held up well over the years, but it's time that I make some proper goatskin pants to match my jacket. I'd already started making a pair of goatskin pants several years ago, but the pandemic and other things got in the way and I set everything aside. So you get to follow along as I finish what I started and finally make some goat pants. These are the patterns I'm working with. Previously, I'd made a paper pattern and transferred the shape onto foam board. And the foam board made it easier to trace the shape onto the goat skin itself. The skins aren't cheap, and I wanted to make sure I could get everything I could out of them. Here are the pieces that I'd already cut from two other skins. So I have 4 pieces. They represent the leg from the top of the waist right about down to my knee, and there's a front and back side for each leg. In order to get a full pant leg, I'm going to need to cut 4 more pieces and then join them together with my existing uppers. That's where these 2 skins come in. I need to get 4 lower pieces out of these 2 skins, and there should be plenty with a little left over, I hope. But first, I want to streamline my pattern. The lower part of my foam core shapes, it's just a little too curvy. I want to avoid any unnecessary bagginess. That's a mistake I made with my own cow pants. Using garbage bags, I quickly made a new mock-up using a straighter calf line. This was all unplanned, which is pretty much how I work on everything. I cut out my mock-up, taped it together, and tried it on. I think it'll work. Going back to my forms, I trimmed them down to match the new pattern and marked where I expected the end of the leg to land. My normal inseam is about 28 inches, so I went with that. I also marked about where the uppers and lowers might meet. I didn't want to try to sew a flat seam and have the join look too fabricated, so the uppers and lowers were going to overlap by a few inches. Just to be sure that I'd be able to get what I needed and be as efficient as possible with my skins, I cut some new pattern forms out of cardboard. The hardest part about the process is cutting the skins. Not because they're hard to cut through. All you really need is a sharp knife and a light touch. The hard part is making a cut and praying that you've measured everything right. Depending on where you get them, you might pay $100 to $200 per skin. There isn't any room for mistakes. But luckily, the long pile of the fur covers well, and if your suit is too perfect, I think it actually ruins the aesthetic. When I started splicing pieces together, I was using a basic leatherworking needle with wax thread and relied on a simple running stitch. I would mark where I wanted my needle to go on the inside of the skin, but this method was still very slow. So I picked up a stitching awl from Weather Leather, and once I learned how to use it, that sped things up quite a bit. I thought I might try for a regular 1/4 inch inseam. Using wing dividers and a Sharpie, I marked out what might be somewhat regular stitch marks. Binder clips held my work together, and I started with the inside of the legs. There are a lot of methods you could use at this point. The smart thing to do would be to shave down the hair along your seam and glue the seam pieces together. You're going to get a tighter stitch and there will be less bulk to work with. Plus, things won't move around. But did I do any of that? Does it matter? I'm not sure, but no, I didn't. It'd be great to have a sewing machine capable of handling these skins, but those cost a good deal of money, so everything was done by hand. The stitching awl was $30, and the hides were already shedding hair all over my workshop, so I figured I might as well just dig in and get the job done. After finishing the inside seams, I figured I had a better idea of how the piece would fit. My seam allowance was pretty good, and I felt pretty confident closing up the outside seam to make what I call leg tubes. There's not much to say about this part of the process, so here it is in time lapse. Attaching the two leg tubes together by way of the crotch seam was just a lot more sewing. And there we are, we're done. I have some goat pants now. Do they fit? Well, they're okay. They're not as baggy as my cowhide pants, but they are a little bit longer as well. I'm going to need to take them up a bit. The general idea was to have a pair of pants that could flare out over my shoes, so I could still wear my street shoes underneath my goat pants. I don't know if I'm there just yet, but I'm still going to have to make some adjustments if I want to tuck these into my boots. Once I'm done with hemming, I'll add suspenders, and my goat pants will be complete. Krampus of Indianapolis is a small but dedicated band of Krampus performers in Indianapolis, Indiana. We've been bringing Krampus to the area since about 2016. Check us out on all the various socials. Thanks for watching.